So this is our next writing session for today, and today we're going to be looking at tenses. So we're going to be building on a writing skill, and we're going to be looking to see if we can identify when something is written in the past tense or in the present tense. So we're not looking at our model text today. We are just focusing on having a writing skill, okay? And we're focusing on tenses. Now, remember, past tense tells us if something has already been done. It was done in the past. And then present tense tells us that it's something that's happening at this moment in time, okay? So before we do anything to do with tenses, we need to think about whether we can identify nouns and verbs. So remember, nouns are things that we have around us. They're the names of those things, and it's how you might sort of, instead of giving it a special name, it's about just what you call different objects, okay? And the verbs are things that we do, okay? It's an action that you might have. So have a look at this table at the bottom, and there's this selection of words here. Pause the video and think, can you sort them into nouns or verbs? Can you find the objects and the things, and can you find the verbs? Right, here are our answers. So here we've got our three nouns: bag, table, and pen. They are all objects that you can find around your house. They are all things, okay? And that's what makes them nouns. And on this side, we've got our verbs. These are all actions that you can do. You can share things, you can write, and you can walk. These are all things that you would do. These are actions that you would have to have. Okay? Now, when we're talking about past and present, the verbs are what is going to tell us whether something is in the past or the present. So let's have a look at these examples here. Now, you've got two sentences and they've been written in the present tense, okay? We know they've been written in the present tense because the verbs have been written in the present tense, as if you're doing them at this moment in time. To be able to identify it, though, we need to find the verb. So what I want to know is, can you find the verbs in these two sentences? So you've got A, she pours on the glue, and B, he flips the coin. So pause the video here and think, can you find the verbs? Right, hopefully you found the verbs, and here they are. The two verbs in those sentences are pause and flipped. And we can tell that they're in the present because we have added this S on the end of both of those verbs. We're saying it's happening now. She pours on the glue. It sounds like it's happening at this moment. He flips the coin, okay? Right, let's move on to this one then. So this one is written, and you can see that the verb has been underlined. So the verb, we've got my mum finds, found an old book in the drawer. Okay, the verb has been underlined. It's either finds or founds. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that this sentence is written in the past, okay? So we need to decide which one of these verbs is going to tell us that it's in the past tense. Okay, so think about what I just said a minute ago about those two sentences before, and they were in the present tense. So pause the video here and think, can you figure out which verb changes this sentence and puts it into the past? Right, let's have a little look. So remember I said before that if we are an S on the end of our verbs, it's present. So if I think finds, that's in the present, isn't it? Because it's got that S. So our answer to put it in the past tense would be found, okay? It's something that has happened in the past. And we've changed the word find and we've made it into the past by changing it to found. So here we've got three more sentences, okay? We want to get them written in the present tense, okay? At the moment, we've got to figure out what tense they're written in, and we want to see if we can find the ones that are written in the present tense. So we've got A here. The parents went to the school assembly. So think about where the verb is in that sentence. What is the action that's been done? And is it in the present or in the past? We've got B here. The birds the bird builds a nest in the tree. The birds build a nest in the tree. Think, what's the verb in that sentence? And is it in the past or in the present? My aunt is very kind. So think again, what is the verb in that sentence? And what tells us, is it in the past or the present? So pause the video here and can you tell me which two sentences, because there's two of them, that are in the present tense? Okay, so let's see if we got them right. So the two sentences in the present tense are B and C. We know this because the verb in the first one is went, and it is in the past tense. If you went somewhere, you've already done it. In B, the verb is builds. And remember we said about this S on the end, okay? That tells us that it is in the present, okay? Then this last one was a little bit tricky because it's hard to see where the verb is. The verb is the is part in here, okay? Because you're saying she is at this moment in time very kind. The very kind part is describing the aunt, and the is the doing part of it. It doesn't seem like a verb. It was a bit of a tricky one, that one. So if you got that, well done. Okay, our next one then is which word would complete the sentence below when it was in the present tense. So this is about being in the present tense. So it's the criminal either steals or stole some money from the bank. And we need to put them in the present tense. So which one of these would tell us that it's in the present? One would put us in the past, and one would put us in the present. Pause the video here and think which one's going to fill in the gap. Okay, let's see which one we will be putting in the gap. Steal. So remember, it's got that S on the end, and this tells us that it's happening at this moment. Stole is in the past, isn't it? You're saying it's already happened. When we put something in the past tense, we're saying it's already happened. Okay. Now, this next little activity that I want you to do is basically just identify which one's in the past and which one's in the present, okay? You've got three sentences. I live in a large house. He jumped higher than anyone, and I smell flowers. Pause the video and think, which one's past, which one's present, okay? Right, let's see if we've figured it out, okay? Now here, he jumped higher than anyone. It's got the verb here, jumped. Now, in most cases, when we put something in the past, we add ed, and this is the first time we've seen this because the previous verbs that we've looked at, they've changed the full word to make it in the past. But there's a lot of verbs that you'll find that you add ed to the end of it to make it a past tense. I smell flowers. Smell is the verb. Now, it doesn't have the S on the end, but it is still in the present, isn't it? Because you're saying it's happening at the moment. I smell flowers. It's in the present. And our last one, I live in a large house, is also present. Our verb is live. Again, didn't have that S on the end, but that live is in the present. It's not lived. It doesn't have the D on the end to make it the past tense. The same with the smell. I could have a smelled flowers, but it's not. So that's in the present. Okay. Now let's have a little look at this activity here, okay? We're almost to our main one that you'll be doing in your own books now. So we've got Alec and Clara. They were talking about this sentence, okay? You've got, I thought about the question for a while. Now, Alec thinks that it's written in the present tense, whereas Clara thinks it's written in the past tense. So what I want you to do is pause the video, and I want you to think, who do you agree with? Who's right? Okay, think about that sentence. I thought about the question for a while. What's the verb? And is the verb present or past? Right. The verb is thought. Okay. Now this tells us whether it is present or past. And actually, thought is something that you've already done. If you've thought of something, you've got an idea in your head. If you were thinking about the question for a while, then that would be in the present tense because you're still thinking about it. You've not got an answer yet. So Clara is right in that one. I wonder if you were right. Okay, this is going to be our main task for today. Now, I have written out a bit of writing for you. And this is why it's important for you to make sure that you understand past and present tense. Because sometimes people can get a little bit confused when they write. And if we can notice it when we read back our writing, it's much better. It helps our writing make much more sense and people can understand the times that you're writing things. So I've made some mistakes. So I'm going to read it and I'm wondering if you can spot as I read where I've made some mistakes. At the weekend, I walked along the bank of the river. The river is twisting and turning like a snake. The water was brown and polluted. Despite looking very carefully, I can spot hardly any fish. Seagulls will fly above my head, searching for food. The sun shone brightly in my eyes, so I had to squint. Before long, however, the sun goes back behind the dark clouds. Rain started to fall, so I put up my umbrella to keep me dry. You will never guess what happened there. A huge gust of wind comes from nowhere and destroys my brolly. I rushed back to my car and warmed myself up. Now, if you were listening carefully, you might have noticed that there's some parts where I'm writing in the past tense, like it's already happened. And there's some parts I'm writing in the present where it's happening at this moment in time. Now, if I'm talking about at the weekend, I've already done this. So I should really be writing this in the past tense. All of these things have already happened in my walk as I've walked along the riverbank. So you have this piece of text in your packs. I want you to make sure you've got it in front of you. And what I want you to do is I want you to improve my work and make sure that I've written it in the correct tense. We're looking for the past. So let's go through a few of them together. So you've got, at the weekend, I walked along the riverbank. Now, the verb I've got there is walked. It's in the past because it's got ed on there, so I'm quite happy with that, okay? The river is twisting and turning like a snake. Now, remember, the verb in this sentence is the is part, okay? And that's what I need to change. It's not in the past tense. It's telling me like at this moment. So what I need to do is I need to change that section and I need to change it to the river was twisting and turning. It's already happened. It's not is anymore. It is was twisting and turning. Now we've got the river was brown and polluted. I think I'm quite happy because I've used was. I haven't used is. So I'm quite happy there. Despite looking very carefully, I can spot hardly any fish. Okay, so I'm not quite happy with that because it says I can. So I think I need to change that. So the verb that I've got there, despite looking very carefully, I can spot hardly any fish. I think I've made some mistakes there. So I'm going to change can spot to I could spot hardly any fish. Okay, can is in the present. Okay, so I want to talk about it in the past. I could spot. Okay, so I'm saying that I could spot no fish. That's what that hardly any means. I could spot no fish whatsoever because it was all brown and polluted. Next part, then let's think about this next one. Seagulls will fly above my head, searching for food. Now, I'm not happy with that at all. It doesn't sound like I'm talking about it in the past at all. So let's think about the first part, remember my main part of my sentence. This comma here shows the extra information that I've added. So that is fine. Seagulls will fly above my head. I think it's this bit here, will fly above my head. That tells me it's in the present. That's my verb there, isn't it? So I need to change from will fly to, I need to change it to flew over my head, because flew is in the past tense, okay? I want you to pause the video there. And I want you to see if you can correct the rest of the sentences. Can you go through and change the sentences from present and make sure that they are all in the past? So pause the video here and see how you get on. Fantastic. If you've managed to get through that amazingly, I've added a little bit of challenge for you. I've added this extra bit of writing here into your work packs, okay? Now, this is extra if you want a little bit more practice, okay? If you think that you've been really good at identifying the past and the present. Now, this whole thing has been written in the present tense, okay? I can see, because as I read it, it was as we, my dog Hodge, and I approached the playing fields. First of all, I've got this word approach. Now I can tell that's not in the past, because in the past tense it would be approached, ed on the end. Hodge is straining to pull away. Now remember, is present, isn't it? So if I wanted to put that in the past, I would put was. What's the matter with you? I grumble. Remember, that's my verb, grumble. So I'd be changing that to grumbled. So it would be ed, okay? So what I'd like you to do is, if you've managed to go through our first bit of writing and you're quite happy at changing the tense from making sure it's all in the past, challenge yourself and see, can you change this one so that it's all in the past? All of it at the moment is in the present. See if you can find the right verbs that you need to make sure are in the past, okay? And have a go. I can't wait to see the things that you've come up with. So good luck, and I'll see you in my next video.